Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining Tom and I. I'm Byron, and Tom, I'm going to say hi.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever this finds you.
As we begin this conversation again, where we talk about how we want to help you help managers win, and in today, we're going to be talking about kind of how we can leverage the behavioral science and the people data side of things to help your managers be better at creating a culture of performance or having greater accountability or more accountability within the context of your managers and their teams. So before we kind of jump into that, Tom, any thoughts on what we're going to be talking about today?
Yes, that with all the technology and all of the tools and all of the things coming against managers, we are sometimes swept in a river of reactivity.
Hmm.
And the idea that we're talking about today is about sequencing, putting yourself and your team first, and then levering the technology rather than reacting to the technology, which will sweep you away.
I love that. Being swept away in a river of reactivity. I mean, we don't have the ability to interact with our audience, but I wonder how many of our audience would really truly resonate. That would really connect with them.
Yeah, I'm hearing it everywhere I go. People are saying some version of, I don't have time to think around here. And if we don't have time to think, then the best we can do is react
Hmm.
and think after something hits us, and then think technology will solve our problem. But we haven't even identified our problem. So technology is just going to amplify and increase the river of reactivity. And it's an endless cycle.
Well, Tom and I have the privilege of hearing from folks on a regular, daily, multiple times a day. So when Tom says that he's hearing this, he truly is hearing this out in the marketplace. And both Tom and I are coming together for Optimax Talent to really provide resources to companies of all shapes and sizes. Probably not the big mammoth companies, probably more the medium sized companies. But the point is that no matter what size of the company you're in, you have people and you have work that needs to be done, and there needs to be a strategy, there needs to be a plan, there needs to be this this proactivity versus reactivity. And I think that that's really what Tom and I bring together. We share in common this value that it really, people really do matter, and the work that we do really does matter. Tom is coming from this from a couple different vantage points that I'm coming from it from purely a coaching perspective, a leadership development perspective, and Tom does some of that as well. But Tom also comes at this from even like from a communication perspective, a training perspective. Tom, share with a little bit within our audience about kind of the perspective you're coming from when we talk about how to help managers win. What are your thoughts?
Well, I work in the persuasive arts, and the persuasive arts would include sales, presentation, executive presence, conflict transformation, and influence without authority. And Maxwell has a famous quote: "Leadership is influence, period."
Mm.
And if we just get the idea to pull in the same direction requires buy-in or force. And we believe in non-manipulative persuasion. And the best way to do non-manipulative persuasion is to understand the viewpoint of others and position our viewpoint in a way that they're likely more likely, they're intelligent adults, they may not, but the receptivity meter to your ideas goes up, up, up if you are positioning it against understanding what it is they want. And today we're just talking about using data to jumpstart that process, to support that process, and to give something other than our emotions some weight in the decisions and in the conversations which lead to the decisions.
Yeah, because we believe that and we know that you believe this too. And the reason why we even started this whole conversation about how to help managers win back in the first part of the year was from research that was done by the Predictive Index as they measured how managers were feeling, especially those managers that are in the middle managers. We believe, and we know that you believe they're crucial. Without them, you take them out. It's like removing a bridge where you no longer have access to where you thought you had access to. The managers, in many ways, the middle managers are kind of access to getting the work done. You take them out, you're not going to get the work done. You take them out of your companies, and some of these larger tech companies in the last couple of years have done that. And I think they've learned the lesson of, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. But because of things are changing so quickly and the world is so incredibly unstable, we need to have a better plan. We need to have kind of this idea of what Tom even said earlier about, living or being next to or being adjacent or looking at a river of reactivity. That just gives me stress. It just shoots up, my cortisol levels go up right when I even think about that, because I think that we have so much swirling around right now in our world. The last thing we need at work is the same kind of unpredictable craziness that is going on around us. So I think that we want to talk about how managers are important. They need support. They really, as a jumping off point, they need a people strategy. So kind of walk us through this, Tom, if you would.
Sure, be delighted to. The first thing to note is the way we're using the word strategy. When I ask people, what does strategy mean? They almost always say a plan, but it doesn't begin with a plan. That's the end deliverable if you're having a strategic planning meeting, but it begins with a question. What is a win? How do we define a win, whether it's a small win, a big win, a global win? And then next, what are we counting on to win? And almost unanimously, the answer is our people. So if you're counting on your people to win, and here let's use the far right, which is business results. Win is producing the results, producing the products for our customers and taking the money and producing whatever the results are. In the middle, and if you get our complimentary copy of the roadmap, you will see a graphic of the manager being like a sandwich squeezed. Managers are necessarily in the middle, but that doesn't need to be the same as being squeezed by the executive suite and by their people, as long as you make space for what matters most, which is everybody's work needs to be connected to the bigger business strategy. And everybody needs to be equipped with what they need to win, so that the executives don't have to come, and it doesn't take 3 executives to monitor a workflow. And so this is what we call optimization, because we're producing our results by empowering the talent to be their best and do their best work. And so the tools that we're talking about today are in the middle, and they're helping the manager and the executives and the individuals to participate in this alignment. So it isn't just the executive's job. It isn't just the manager's job. It isn't just the individual's job. It's all of us using the same values, the same business strategy, and asking, how does this fit? Whatever this is, large or small. And to do that, you got to make space to think strategically. And that's the general you. I'm looking at my tile, but you can look at yours and say the same.
Yeah, and I think that the idea of having a strategy and which is what you're counting on to win through your people, I think it's important to say, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about this as well, Tom, that there needs to be some kind of uniform, some kind of agreement, from the leadership level when you're going to use a tool for your people strategy. The challenge that I have come across, and I even had a conversation this week, where companies, they do have a people strategy, but it's not a strategy. They have strategies. They have multiple strategies, and they're using multiple tools. And I can tell you, they love their people, but it is absolutely confusing what they're doing, because they have, every single leader gets to choose whatever tool they want. And as a result, they're not getting the results they want. They're not getting the impact that they're wanting. And my suggestion was, what if you simply chose and committed to one tool or one process that you could kind of, peel the layers of the onion back, so to speak, in order to develop your people. What do you think about that?
Well, to me, there's two key words that come up when I hear it. And it may be that they do end up using multiple tools, but the key word is communication, so that we understand what tools and how it, and then the other word, which we're using so much now, I'm afraid it'll become a buzzword, but it's really not. It's alignment. When you go to a chiropractor, she doesn't put anything in you. She just realigns. You gave a good story about the tires, but we become so quickly out of alignment. You and I have experienced that personally, just 3 or 4 days. And we both got stories in our head. Our values are aligned, but we're not going in the same direction. So multiple realignments become easier within a framework that everybody buys into and using the same tools. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that one tool is the answer, because there's plenty of companies where everybody uses Salesforce.com and the sales suck, because there's other things that need to be aligned. They don't need to get new tools. So my point is that strategy, whether it's business strategy, people strategy, or even a weekly work strategy, requires stepping back a little bit, look at what's going on and asking what adjustments need to be made. We obviously don't need to go back and rewrite a whole business strategy, but we could be drifting off away from the mothership pretty easily.
Yeah, I love it. So really the need for alignment and communication, if you do choose to use more than one tool, fine, but let's at least have a framework. And if we have a framework and we want to work with our people to grow our people, so our people actually can have the tools and the resources they need, especially are those middle managers, let's communicate, let's align, let's adjust. And it's a constant, continual process. But in my conversation with these folks, that was not what they were about. They were it was really more of kind of what we talked about before, with throwing spaghetti against the wall.
Yes, that's a huge difference. It's really not about the one tool versus many. It's this desire to have an answer, like we need to use one tool. And somebody could say, well, Byron says we need to use one tool. And it's possible they do it and it doesn't help the situation because they haven't done the alignment work. It's not that it was the wrong decision or the right decision. So we fix problems without looking at the root causes of the problems, and then they recur as an upset.
Yeah. And with that, I mean, the idea of having tools, not just tool. I mean, the predictive index is a tool, but there are other tools. So vision plus tools equals scale, and you can actually have an impact throughout your entire organization. And we believe, because alignment really shouldn't become a buzzword. And the word leverage absolutely is a buzzword, where you leverage something. And we believe that we actually can leverage people data. But if you're currently not using any people data at all, then you can't leverage it because you don't have it. So we would just simply ask you, if you're going to help your managers win, you need to get the people data in there and start working with it. Any thoughts, Tom?
Well, you reminded me, I don't want to get off the topic here, but the corporate buzzwords are when we substitute the phrase for the content. So my biggest experience with that was there were a couple of years and some very good books. Everybody was just saying transparency, transparency. And after a while, it just was meaningless. How do you mean that? Are we supposed to be naked at the meeting, or what's going on? And the same thing with leverage. That's why I love this picture. Is the point is, how can we make it better and easier at the same time? And then the other, how can we scale whatever that positive quality is? And so I love this image. Archimedes, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot, I wasn't sure if I had it, is that the lever you choose is what decides how much you can lift. And so it's a good word. And the opposite of that would be to think that you're employing a tool, but you're not actually lifting anything. Then you're going around in circles. So I don't want to spend more time on that, but just to say, I like the word alignment and lever and leverage. And I'm also aware it can become jabberwocky after a while. But vision and tools and expansion pretty much fit everybody's goals. With they want more of something is, what do you see, how do you frame what you see, and how do you use the tools so more of that shows up in reality. And then the question is, if team one is doing it, what can we scale? Where intuition is not scalable, because then each individual leader has to have the same intuition, which 4,000 years of written history tells us will never happen, no matter how well you hire.
So with the idea of leveraging people data, it gives us a greater capacity. And we were looking at this slide earlier, and Tom asked me, can I change it? And the answer was, yeah, I could, but I didn't really know if I had enough time. Especially I couldn't today because I ended up having to reboot everything because I had some technical issues. It really should say greater accountability, but more accountability. The point is that when you have people data, it's going to give you the luxury of having the ability and the capability of helping your leaders to lead better, helping the managers, helping them to drive performance, to create a culture of performance where it's not just about just showing up and doing the minimum. It's about, through their relationship and their connections and the connectivity that the leader has with their team and the connectedness that helps them build a culture where people want to, there's a tool that I've used. It's not my tool, but it's GWC. They get it, they want it, and they have the capacity to do it. So when you have that GWC, and again, that actually comes from Gino Wickman, the Entrepreneur Operating System, the EOS. When someone has GWC, and when you have people data in your company, you have this greater capacity, ability, capability to have more accountability, greater accountability, because you have leaders that GWC their role. They get it, they want it, they have the capacity to do it. So then they can have conversations. And again, there just happens to be this phenomenal software that supports them behind them, that shows them the behavioral data that connects not just the behavioral data, but it connects with the work that needs to be done. And that way, the idea of leveraging people data, you can actually create a culture of performance. And again, we talked about last week and the week before that every single team, if you have people data, and that data is collected inside of the predictive index, every single team will actually have a team name, a team style, a team moniker. And you might be a performing team, but you might not. You might have a completely different style. But even if you have a team that has a completely, utterly different style than performance, they can still be held accountable. And leaders love accountability. What do you think, Tom?
Well, I remember the first time I made this statement in the corporate environment. You don't manage people, you manage agreements. Higher performing teams are not smarter, better looking, better human beings than lower performing teams. They have a higher level of agreement. And agreement means that there's predictability. Byron will either do it, or he'll come back to me and tell me what the problem is, or he'll do many things, but I don't have to see, is he doing it? People say, well, she's not committed. Commitment is internal. That's between you and God, if you have one. But agreement is external. Byron says he'll bring the pen, and he brings the pen. And so the goal of an enterprise is to raise the level of agreement. And it's fed by commitment, but it's not synonymous. And without data, you can only do it on a small scale. And there's some small teams that just come to understand how people operate. And that's beautiful. But then you can't get a culture of accountability through that action unless you communicate the value of that and you give people a path to raise their level of agreement. Wherever they are is fine for now. That's where we start. And that's why using AI and PI is a no-brainer there, because you can start where you are and you can envision more, I read it instead of said it, greater accountability. And it's a process. It's a continuous improvement in our level of accountability, because that builds the desire to be part of this accountable team. Nothing erodes trust like low accountability, because everybody says the right thing. Oh, we're going to be transparent. I read the book. What does it even mean? How are you going to demonstrate that? How are you going to correct it when it's wrong? That's even more important, because we're humans. You got to amend the agreement. And if you break the agreement, you got to take responsibility and clean it up. That's power. That's momentum. And with data, it's scalable.
And I think it's really our responsibility as leaders to not shy away and to not shrink at the work that needs to be done to build great leaders in our organizations. Because if you want to kill your culture, then reward everyone the same. Then ignore bad behavior. If you want to have a culture of performance, a culture of accountability, a culture of engagement, of superstars, then hold them accountable. Have hard conversations. Because we believe what Tom and I are offering in Optimax Talent, we believe that we can help managers win by helping them become better managers, where there's no more guessing, that you'll have actionable insights, you'll have better relationships. And that is absolutely a combination of AI plus PI. Because when you give managers the tools that they need, the resources that they need, they're going to have the insights that they need to have in their meetings with their one-on-one meetings with the direct reports. Don't make your managers guess at how they need to manage their direct reports. Some managers have a better handle on that than others. Some managers are brand new. Some managers have been doing this forever. But the point is if you give them tools that, especially tools that involve behavioral data, data about people, and you give them the AI tools that can help them in real time, give them insights on how they could be a better coach, a better leader in the literally the meeting they just had. The point is that those leaders can have those one-on-ones with their direct reports, where they as a manager, they're the ones that are leveraging people data, because they're looking at the people data in real time. So they know that the behaviors that they bring to the table, they also know the behaviors that their direct report brings to the table. So now they're actually equipped with actionable insights, and managers have become better managers. They become better leaders because they have the right information at the right time. Any thoughts, Tom?
I think it's well said. Keep rolling.
Okay, sounds good. So the notion that not only do we believe that they can be better managers and better leaders, we believe that they can be better coaches. Because when you think about it, we believe that there are leaders at every level. And I literally mean every single level, even at the very, 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 very beginning. If someone's onboarded, there's their first day in the company, they can be leaders. They're at least a leader of themselves. But you never know who you're going to hire today that could be in your C-suite in 5 years or less. And it's important that we are providing our managers. We're helping them. We want to help your managers win, but we believe we can do that by helping them become better coaches, because we want to be able to give them the power of feedback, because when you empower leaders at every single level, you need to give them the green light to give feedback, and they need to be sending a green light to receive feedback, because it's a two-way process, two-way part of communication, because feedback ultimately is a gift. It can't be a gift if the receiver of the feedback is closed, or is hurt, or is wounded, or they don't understand. So the whole idea of the AIPI part of what Optimax Talent provides is that we give you the tools that your leaders need in order for them to become not only better leaders, but better managers. And then lastly, we can help your managers know how to recognize each individual on their teams uniquely and differently. Any thoughts, Tom?
Yes, I just want to point out that the word coach is a very broad word, and you might be thinking coactive coaching, but I think a good distinction to make, as Blanchard makes, is that you want to support people based on where they are with a vision of where they can be. So in the Blanchard model, you begin when someone's development level 1 relative to the goal or task with being very directive. If you have never sailed before and the boat is capsizing and you say, well, gee, Byron, what do you think we ought to do? No, that's a bad approach. Coactive coaching won't work. I need to take charge, bring us back safely, and then discuss afterwards what I did. But if I were a whole summer and taking over every time there was a difficulty, it would be he had hired a yachtsman. And so learning is a progressive realization. And so coaching comes when they already have a foundation. Pure coaching, like coactive coaching. Performance coaching is more directive. I know how to do something Byron doesn't, so I show him, then he does it with my feedback, all the way to pure coactive coaching, which happens at development level 4. And so the point I want to make that about all of this is we're talking about these tools today, but what Optimax Talent always begins with is discovery, so that we make sure that we position the value we bring against what matters most to you, and help you to craft the strategy so that when you leverage the tools, it's not data, but it's data aligned to what matters most to you.
Really well said. So with that data that does align with what matters to you, what we're trying to communicate today is that what Optimax Talent is, we have a mission and a passion for, is to help your managers get better, to become better leaders, to become better coaches. And ultimately, we believe that when you're very intentional about the development of your managers, you're going to get better performance. And again, this is like Tom, the differentiation between performance coach and coactive coaching. I think Tom did a great job explaining that. But I think that it's important that we as leaders empower our managers to think through and to think about performance, to be trackers of goals, to want to have to want to get better at their one-on-one meetings, to not have loose ends. But the idea is that when we help your managers get better, it's about that again, then this is internal. It's that commitment. And then they make an agreement with you, they make an agreement with themselves. They also are committed. But the point is with the agreements that Tom even just shared a minute ago, there's an agreement that they want to improve in their performance, because too often modern managers, they're spread so thinly that their direct reports become like, an afterthought, because they don't meet with their direct reports. The boss is kind of like a ghost. So what we want to be able to provide you as in your teams of people and your teams of leaders is we want to be able to help you connect the goals directly to those one-on-one interactions with their teams. And in those one-on-one, let's call that the one-on-one workspaces, the one-on-one meetings that they have. Optimax Talent is committed to helping you help your managers win in those one-on-one workspace meetings. and that is through the power of AI. It's also through the power of PI. And we can promise you that you'll have better performance. And then lastly is this idea, just because, I mean, I'm going to ask Tom to kind of wrap up here in a second, but lastly, it's this idea of constant growth, of being committed to managing your agreements, of being courageous in your conversations, of stepping up in your leadership, of having goal management, of knowing what meetings you're going to and why, and having agenda and having analytics for all of it. And it really is all through PI. It's all through AI and PI. Any closing thoughts, Tom?
Well, this is an approach that is the right approach because people matter. But I think we should end with the business case, is that you can increase the return on your people investment. And if you have 3 people pulling in separate directions, that's very costly. If you have 1 in a key position leaving, that's very costly. So you can look at all of the business issues: recruiting, retaining, productivity, and all make a case for, if we improve our people, we'll get a better increase. And it's morally the correct thing to do. And it's awful difficult to do alone. So we would love to listen with you and offer you, 1, to take the predictive index at no cost, no obligation, and 2, have a strategy session if you want to look at some of your teammates and learn how this might work for you. So we'd love to listen with you.
Thank you for today, and thank you, Tom, for being here today. And we'll be here again next week. And I apologize for the technical difficulties. They happen. Have a great rest of your day and a great week, and hopefully we'll see you here next week.
Thank you all.
Take care. Bye.